Hello everyone. I need to beg a few minutes of your time to set the record straight on something that troubles me very deeply. I'm Major Dave, and when I see blatant lies being spread about someone, I'm just obliged to speak out against it. And frankly, I'm outraged by some very damaging posts and comments on social media regarding our U.S. Senator Thom Tillis that have no basis in actual facts. First, let me get the legal stuff out of the way. Let me make it clear. I'm making this video at my own expense without coordination of any kind with the senator, his staff, his campaign, or anyone else for that matter, period. My assessments of his attitudes, beliefs, reasons, and opinions are my own opinion and nothing more, but they are based on verifiable facts. I'm in no way speaking for him, but rather about him as I see it. And I do this because most of the people making these posts aren't liberals, but are people I know to be conservative grassroots people. But even if they mean well, they're killing our chances of keeping a Republican majority in the Senate in November. The Democrats only need to take 4 seats to regain control from the GOP. And voices like these only make him a better target for a Democrat win. Now, none of this is new. In fact, it's been going on for a while, but I can trace most of it back to when Tillis was Speaker of the House in the General Assembly, and he removed a provision in a House bill that would allow for concealed carry in restaurants that served alcoholic beverages. Now, his critics apparently never bothered to look into the issue any further than that, and have been unjustly blasting him as anti-Second Amendment ever since. What they can't now admit to is that he actually did us all a favor in doing so, because they become too invested in their own egos to admit they were wrong about it and him. So, what favor did he do us? Well, let me explain to you what they ignore. Now, I know that Tillis knew that the same provision was already in a Senate bill that was headed to the House for consideration. Had he left that provision in the House bill, it would have forced a joint House-Senate Reconciliation Committee to debate the two measures, and it could have wound up being deleted completely. But by removing it, the Senate bill sailed through the House with the provision intact, and it became law without any further discussion. Now, friends, that's leadership. That's wisdom. That is mastery of the legislative process. That is winning for conservatives like you and me. So when Tillis co-sponsored Senator Dianne Feinstein's gun-grabbing bill in the Senate, oh, they doubled down on their character assassination of him as, again, anti-Second Amendment, and again, wrongly so. What they didn't see is that, as a member of the Judiciary Committee, he knew that bill would never see the light of day, much less make it to the floor for a vote. So as I see it, he gained a favor from Feinstein that really cost him nothing in the end. Well, except the ignorant criticisms of these few people who are just intent on destroying his chances for re-election. You see, I think we all know that if you tell a lie, you make it big enough, and you repeat it often enough, in time it becomes accepted as truth. Don't buy it. But you see, they weren't content to stop there either. Then they went after his work on red flag gun laws. And apparently they didn't read the text of the bill that the Senate was considering, because it was to stop the states from enacting them without protection for our most basic right to due process. Tillis isn't trying to take anyone's guns away. He wasn't advocating for red flag laws. He was advocating for due process. He was trying to make sure that anyone facing gun confiscation under these laws had their day in court in front of a judge before any weapons were taken away. Now you tell me, how is that anti-Second Amendment and not in our best interest? You should know I've only met the man 3 times that I can recall where I got to speak to him personally. And even then it was brief. I think I last spoke with him about 5 years ago. So although I do consider him a friend, it isn't like we're close and keep in touch on a regular basis. But what I have done is followed what he's done for NC ever since 2010 when I first got involved in politics. But I've just felt moved to share with you these and a few more things about the man I've come to know, respect, and admire. Attacks like these can only be stopped with facts, and every voter in NC needs to know them before they head to the polls in November. Now, did you know that Tillis votes with Trump more than any other member of our entire congressional delegation to D.C.? Yep, 93% of the time, according to one recent survey. Oh, but Major Dave, he tried to stop Trump from building the wall. Is that what you heard? No, his difference with Trump was never about the need for the wall. It was about the process being used to authorize and fund it. So what happened? They met, they sat down, they talked it out, and they came to an agreement. And what did these so-called grassroots conservatives have to say about it? They started calling him a flip-flopper. I mean, the man just can't win in their eyes even when he does the right thing. But I also recall that he personally visited all 100 counties in North Carolina back when he was Speaker. And that was critical to gaining a Republican majority in the state Senate to match the majority gained in the House. And it helped deliver the governor's mansion to Pat McCrory in 2012. In my estimation, he is the primary reason that North Carolina became a red state after being blue for over a century. And he deserves proper credit for it. You know, but still more recently, they become even more generic in their criticisms. You know, statements appear like, well, he hasn't done anything for NC since he's gone to Washington, or he only supports big businesses and his cronies. Well, someone needs to stop reading just the headlines before spouting off like that. Those headlines are written that way because the media and the left want him gone, and they love it when we help do their dirty work for them. And why do they want him gone? Because he's just as effective in D.C. as he was in North Carolina, moving the conservative agenda forward, just like he did with Restaurant Carrie. So what's he actually done for NC since arriving in the Senate? You know, how is our life better because he's there? Well, I'm glad you asked. As a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, he led the fight to keep the 440th Airlift Wing at Pope Air Force Base next to Fort Bragg, and fought hard to do it because that's how the 82nd Airborne Division gets deployed to the fight. Excuse me. He was instrumental in obtaining generous funding to build the new Veterans Life Center in Butner that houses homeless veterans and helps train them to return to a self-sustaining lifestyle. He's worked closely with the VA to improve veterans' health care, including their ability to seek private care when VA care was not available when needed. He's been a strong advocate for our increased funding for our National Guard to upgrade their equipment and their facilities, making us one of the most military-friendly states in the country. Now back to that claim he only supports corporations and big businesses. Who is Tillis actually helping? How about the small family-owned farms and commercial fishermen in North Carolina who provide much of the food we all eat? He knows these businesses, and these owners are as much a constituent as you and me. They depend largely on migrant labor to harvest and prepare those crops and catches for the market. More labor is needed, and these businesses are asking him to help get it. Why? Well, for one, our markets continue to grow in the Trump economy, but domestic labor has decreased. Most Americans have shown that they're unwilling for the most part to harvest crops in the field, man the boats, cut fish, or shell shrimp at any price. So yes, he supported an increase in visas for those immigrant workers to meet those needs. If labor was available that allowed them to operate at a profit, there'd be no need to bring in temporary workers, and these business owners would not be asking him for the support. You know, we're not talking about a Microsoft or General Motors. We're talking about the farmer who climbs on his tractor to work the fields, or the boat owner who sets sail on the ocean, and both often before the sun comes up and most people like you and me are even out of bed for the day. Now they're trying to pay their bills and put food on their families' tables too. They matter to NC. They matter to me. And I wholeheartedly believe they matter to Thom Tillis. And yes, they are equally deserving of his support and help. So how is it wrong for addressing a legitimate need that so directly affects the health of our economy? It affects the prices we all pay. He's doing the right thing, and yet these few folks are still blasting him as if it were wrong. And moving on, I recently saw a post online accusing him of voting to cut federal education funds to North Carolina. All I can say is, it's about time, and I hope he did. Absurd, you say? Well, it's not as absurd as you might think. Let's see what we can learn when we read beyond the headlines, and I'll try to keep it in simple terms. Did you know that the federal funds account for only 10% or so of North Carolina's overall education budget? Yeah. What you likely don't know is that our counties spend far more than that, anywhere from 19 to 26% of their education budget just on compliance with the mandates that come with those funds. Yeah, it's a fact. And it's actually a net loss of revenue to those schools. Do the math. Take away 10% and then add back in that 19 to 26% and tell me how we'd be losing money. That's 9 to 16% more money to put into the classroom and its instructional needs if we simply stopped accepting those federal dollars and the mandates that come with them. And not only that, but teachers would have more time to actually do the teaching they're being paid to do instead of filling out forms and tracking this data or that data, which have nothing to do with actually educating our kids. But you won't find that in any headline, and you certainly won't find it in any of the social media posts of these malcontents. Perhaps you're unaware of Senate Bill 68. It's a study bill recently passed by the legislature that researched this and determined these figures. So no, I'm not just making them up. Now, are we to presume that Tillis never talks to his former colleagues in the legislature back in Raleigh, or that they never call him about important issues like this? I wouldn't make such a presumption, and largely because I recall he began his public involvement in education policy long ago as a member and then president of his local PTO, long before ever being elected to public office. So considering all of this, why should you vote to send Thom back to D.C. for another term in November? Because he's doing the very job we elected him to do, and he is getting the results we all need. Now, I don't always agree with him on process, just like he disagreed with Trump at one point, but I have never had any doubt about his ultimate commitment to advancing the conservative agenda in the most successful way possible. Now, as I said before, the Democrats need only win 4 seats in the Senate in November to take control away from the Republicans. Chuck Schumer would replace Mitch McConnell as leader of the Senate and become Nancy Pelosi on steroids. If they succeed, we can expect a screeching halt to the confirmation of conservative judges and justices to our federal bench seats. Did you know that Senator Tillis, as a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, has helped to shepherd over 200 conservative nominees to their seats on federal benches at every level, including the Supreme Court? Now, folks, this is already having a positive impact for conservatives nationally and will help stop the liberal assault on our most basic principles as a nation for the next generation and beyond. I mean, recently, even the uber-liberal Ninth Circuit just overturned California's ban on high-capacity magazines. We can put that one in the win column under Tillis, too. So if you continue to listen to the griping of a few malcontents on social media who can't or won't get their facts straight, or you can consider what I've laid out for you here. If I still lived in NC, I'd be voting for him, and I'd be encouraging everyone I knew to do the same. But since I don't, this video is the best I can do. The frontline narrative on social media begs for such corrections as this to these misguided opinions. Yeah, anybody can post anything, but we can't just assume it's all fact. North Carolina is still my home and always will be. I love North Carolina, and I urge you to do your own research before you vote. Feel free to reach out to me here or on Facebook if there's anything I've offered that needs clarification or expansion. And again, I've made this video of my sole initiative without any coordination or consultation with any other person or group of any kind whatsoever, and nor have I been compensated nor promise future compensation by anyone to do so. I'm just doing what real Americans traditionally do. I'm speaking my own mind and standing up for truth when lies abound. So in November, I ask you to please cast your vote to send Thom Tillis back to Washington for another 6-year term. President Trump's public endorsements send the same message, and for the same reason. People always say Trump is playing chess while others are playing checkers. Well, everything I've seen says Tillis is a chess master too, and perhaps that's the reason the two get along so well. So let's not let the ignorance and ego of the ill-informed few deny our president one of his most dependable allies in the Senate, as they both continue to work together to keep North Carolina red and keep America great. Please like and share this on social media so we can all help keep NC red in November and give Trump a Republican-led Congress for his second term. Thank you for taking the time to hear me out. God bless America, and God bless the great state of North Carolina.